God has called His church to join Him on His mission, to redeem and restore every square inch of creation. He's commissioned His church under that mission to cultivate a come and see people who will go and tell. As we saw in the last video, when we abide in Christ, when we abide in His Word, He forms us as His come and see people whose lives attract others to Jesus for all the right reasons. Additionally, when we abide in Christ, we abide in His work. As we abide in His work, we grow in our competence to go and tell. Now, we see the full mission of the church modeled in the ministry of Jesus. Think back. Jesus spent 3 years forming His disciples into a come and see people. Along the way, He sent them out to go and tell. The New Testament foregrounds the go and tell aspect of our mission. Do you realize that it's entirely possible that Jesus and His disciples visited every village in the region of Galilee? We know that Paul the Apostle traveled more than 14,000 miles in his missionary journey. We even have compelling evidence that the gospel made it all the way to India through the work of the Apostle Thomas. There's no doubt in looking at the New Testament that the New Testament church understood its commission to go and tell. They fully participated in the work of Christ. As we abide in Christ, we abide in His work. When we abide in His work, we grow in our ability to go and tell. Let me share with you some things that I think are essential for abiding in the work of Christ. First of all, if we're going to abide in His work, we need to be active in our personal witness. We take opportunity to share our testimony. We take opportunity to share the gospel. We're active in personal witness. We're also active in making disciples. Maybe you're active at your church and helping with the discipleship ministry. Perhaps you're doing it in your own home. Maybe you're working with new believers. But when we abide in His work, we want to make sure that a part of that is making disciples. We also want to be faithful in life. No matter where we are in our work life, our study life, our community where we live, we want to be faithful to live out a gospel witness there. Finally, in this first little section, serving the church. Every believer needs to be active in their support of the local church. Now, I think these first four are common to all believers. All believers should be involved in personal witness, making disciples, faithfulness in life, and serving the local church. But I think that these last two are particularly applicable to those who are involved in cross-cultural ministry. First of all, you're committed to the core missionary task. We're working through those core missionary tasks here in this cohort, those tasks of entry, evangelism, discipleship, and then healthy church formation, leadership training, and then exit to new fields of ministry. Finally, I need to say a word about the cross. When we look at the cross, we understand that the cross reminds us there is no resurrection apart from crucifixion. There is no gospel advance without sacrifice. The cross reminds us that all they stand to gain in Jesus is worth anything He might ask us to lose. I think back of the work that Roland Allen wrote back in the early 1900s in a book called Missionary Methods, St. Paul's or Ours. He compares the living example of the missionary to the setting of the type in a printing press. Allen concludes, and I quote, "It is the training of the first converts which sets the type for the future. If the first converts are taught to depend on the missionary, the infant community learns to rest passively upon the man from whom they received their first insight into the gospel. It's important that we model dependence on Christ as we abide in His Word and His work. Otherwise, new believers will grow to depend on you and me. What we model, they multiply. What we demonstrate, they'll duplicate. So we want to set the type for the future by the example that we set in the present. If you desire to bear fruit that will last, set the type by abiding in the word and the work of Christ. Model dependence on Jesus for the new believers. It's His method. Abide in the word and the work of Christ, because apart from Him, you can do nothing. Model it for the new believers, because apart from Him, they can do nothing.